What's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TG, here to give you another episode of the People's Questions, where I answer all the questions that you guys have sent me over the past week. As you can see, I'm just getting myself ready for Super Bowl Sunday, and I'm sure you can already tell which team I'm rooting for. And I have to say, this episode is pretty standard, nothing out of the ordinary. I think we might have had one newbie, which, I always consider that a good thing. But before I get into you guys' questions, I would just like to let you guys know that if there is a question that you sent in for this episode and you don't hear it, be sure to look at the comment section of the last video, because chances are the answer is there. And specifically, someone in my regulars actually answered a good number of those questions, and I'm really happy that they do that, because that kind of shows you, or shows everyone, how much you guys are getting to know more about me, and that's always a positive. So starting off real simple with the first question of the episode, coming from Zach Tarf. And you want to know, Brian, would I join the BSAA or SHIELD? Well, Zach, I guess by default I'd have to go with the BSAA, because I honestly don't know too much about SHIELD. I mean, I know what they do in Marvel, but I don't really know enough about them to want to kind of levy my support to them. So, yeah, I guess I'm going with BSAA. Next question comes from Santa Scarpino. You want to know, which is my biggest guilty pleasure in terms of movies and video games? Guilty pleasure. I guess one of my guilty pleasures is Will Smith's Wild Wild West, which, believe it or not, despite that movie bombing and even Will Smith himself kind of hating that film, that has a lot of connections to Superman. To the Superman film that would have been made that had Nicolas Cage in there, and as ridiculous as it is, I absolutely love that film. I don't care what anyone says. Games wise, a guilty pleasure game. I mean, some people might call it a crappy game, but I don't. But I would go with Devil May Cry 2. I mean, I guess that's considered a guilty pleasure because I acknowledge its problems, but that's a major step above DMC. So yeah, I guess those would be my two choices. Next question comes from Daniel Villegas, and you want to know, do I think that Assassin's Creed should get a reboot or a sequel to Black Flag? I don't think a reboot is necessary, because each new game is in itself its own reboot. And so I don't really see most of these games really being connected too much, and so every time we go to a new era, that in itself is its own reboot. And as much as I love Black Flag, I just don't think there's enough story to be told to warrant a sequel to Black Flag. I mean, we already know how Edward's story plays out. So I just don't think that's really necessary. As much as I love Black Flag, it is my favorite entry, but no, I don't think it's necessary. Next question comes from the Immortal Superman. You want to know, a Xenomorph Queen versus a Necromorph Tormentor. Tough, but having a good chance to look at both of them, I'm going to have to go with the Necromorph Tormentor. The reason being is I think the Tormentor is a little bit harder to take down, because like most Necromorphs, you have to aim for the limbs, and I just don't think the Xenomorph Queen would think to attempt that. A Xenomorph Queen is like any creature, and it essentially can be beaten to death, but a Tormentor has specific weaknesses that you have to target, because attacking the body doesn't do too much, and I just don't see the Necromorph Queen, not the Necromorph, the Xenomorph Queen picking up on that. So yeah, I'd go with the Tormentor. Next question comes from the Batman of Neo Gotham. You want to know, whose powers and abilities would I rather have? Hulk's or Doomsday's? Or Doomsday? Here's the problem with Hulk. Unless you have here's the downside about Hulk. If I had the power of the Hulk, technically, wouldn't I be unable to have sex? I mean, if I remember correctly, in like The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, he couldn't have sex because his heartbeat was increasing, and so that was going to cause the change. I mean, it's not so much that you're angry, it's if your heartbeat gets too high. So that's kind of a really serious negative side of it, because then I can't work out, I can't go jogging, otherwise I'm going to turn to this giant green monster and keep ripping my clothes. But then again, Doomsday's powers are a bit odd too, because his ability is that he basically like he's just it's just the look of it. I mean, if I look like Doomsday, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's kind of a lose-lose, but I guess if I had to pick, I mean, with Doomsday, that's even worse. So I guess the Hulks, but I would probably need to take many lessons of, like, I'd need to meditate a lot, and I'd need to kind of know how to control my blood pressure. That way I can do all these extra things. So I guess the Hulk, but only slightly. The next question comes from Lugina13. You want to know, outside of gaming, what are other hobbies that I have? Oh, that's easy. I love taking photography. As I'm sure you guys can tell from my channel, I love working on videos, I love scripting. I'm a big fan of war studies. I love watching war documentaries. I like to go on just yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it's not so much that I don't do too much outside of gaming. It's that just here in Vegas, there's no one to do it with. Like, I have a saying that I'm personally willing to try almost anything once, as long as someone is willing to do it with me. And I just haven't had many opportunities like that living here in Vegas, which is why I'm like desperate to get out any way I can. But yeah, there's just some of the hobbies outside of gaming that I have. Next question comes from Demetrius Buford. You want to know, what combination of lightsaber forms would use both variations of Form 5 built on the backs of Form 3 or Form 4 and 6 built into the back of Jerkai? Well, Form 6 and Form 4. Well, you kind of just answered your own question. Because any... Sorry about that, that's the dryer. Because any variation of different forms is, you're kind of describing Nyman. I mean, both variations of 5 built on the back of Form 3, and then elements of Form 4, I mean, you're kind of, and also on the back of Jerkai, there is no initial form that does all that. They're all separate, but the closest thing to what you're describing is Nyman. Nyman has elements of all those forms, and it does have a training regimen that incorporates Jerkai dual-wielding fencing. So you kind of like semi-answered your own question, because that's ostensibly what Nyman is. It's just a mixture of multiple different forms. So you could have both variations of Form 5 and Form 3 and Form 4 into it. It doesn't you don't have to necessarily incorporate all the previous forms, but a mixture or taking elements of each form and putting them into one is ostensibly what Nyman is to its core. Next question comes from Phantom Cities. You want to know, which games make the full use of open... God, that's annoying. Which games make full use of the open world formula well, and which games don't, in my opinion? Well, I think any game from Rockstar, so like Grand Theft Auto and, Red Dead Redemption, stuff like that. I think the Infamous franchise did a pretty good job at that. I can't really think of too many bad open world games that I've played. I usually stick pretty tightly to good ones. And the next question comes from Abel Z, and you want to know, top foods that I enjoy. Pizza in general, Panda Express's orange chicken. I can eat that all day. In fact, I have a tradition that anytime I see a movie, I immediately get some of that, because that's like my movie thinking food. Love apples. Let's see, what else? Foods. I can eat like spicy sandwiches. Those are always good. And okay, I swear, if that thing goes off one more time, I'm gonna have to get up, guys. And salads. You gotta eat healthy. So again, those are the 5 that come to mind. And the last of question of the episode, I believe, is maybe the only newbie of the episode. And I think I answered your question at the very beginning before even answering all these questions, but I'll answer it again. And you want to know, who do I think is going to win the Super Bowl? I think the Patriots will. I think from what I saw from the Kansas game, I mean, I don't think the Rams are going to make the same mistakes as them. But I think what the Patriots can do better than the Rams can, which they've shown they've masters of, is they are very good at making long drives and burning up the clock. And when you do that, it forces the other team to have to move at a faster pace, and therefore they're more likely to make mistakes. I do not think that this is going to be a shutout game. This is definitely going to be a tight. I can see it easily being within either one score. I don't think it'll be as tight as a field goal, but if I had to make a guess of scores, I'm going to go with Patriots 31, Rams 21. I think that the Patriots will win. I think Tom Brady will get his, I believe, 5th MVP. And I do think that if the Patriots do win this Super Bowl, I do believe it will be their last. Something about being able to win 6 championships in one run, with the same quarterback and coach. I think that's enough to kind of establish as being one of the greatest dynasties, if not the greatest dynasty that's ever been established in NFL history. But heck, that's just my feeling. But those are just my thoughts and opinions on all your guys' questions. I'd like to thank all of you guys for sending your questions in for this episode. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them into me before next Wednesday, roughly around noon, before I start answering them. And like always, I want to thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.